I'm Wendy Lau, and this is Martin Wong, and you kids know us as Ms. Wendy and Mr. Wong. We're parents at Castelar Elementary and members of the Booster Club, FACES, Friends and Alumni of Castelar Elementary. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and we also want to thank Money Mark. Is that Mark? No, that's Mark. For letting us play his music beforehand. Longtime supporter of the school. He actually played one of our Save Music in Chinatown shows. Thank you to Mark for that. I know you're listening. We want to thank Marie, who's behind the curtain, making the video work, look good, transition better than us. We're figuring this out still. Thanks to Mr. Sandoval for letting us into the school to use as our headquarters because our Wi-Fi stinks at home. So here we are in Castelar. And we want to thank T Mai. She's a kindergarten parent. It's her Zoom account that we're using. So thank you, T, and Tad, and Noel, too. And we also want to say that, well, you want to talk about what would happen right now? Like, we were supposed to have movie night.
Yes, so this year's been historically rocky, and we're pretty sad that a lot of our community building and fundraising events have had to be canceled because of the pandemic. So we're just hoping to set this up for you guys tonight.
Yeah, so we made this event tonight. We want it to be fun. We want it to be inspiring and interesting. And we want you guys not just to carry on, and get through this, but to really follow your dreams, and stay hopeful. Because I think, although it's really rough out there, it's historically rough. I think at the end of this, the world will be better. And everyone is like really learning things. And I think we're all going to try. Everyone's going to try really hard to make things better, especially children, students like you. So we adults are really counting on you to make it through this, make it through everything, and help build something really cool afterwards. This event today is going to have our friend Dan, but we have another event next week. We're going to have a Lion King performance online, so look out for an email about that.
Yes, the sixth graders are doing it.
Yeah, and
it'll be a Zoom musical.
Right.
It'll be a new experience.
And unlike the NPR, you don't have to sit on a dirty floor. You can watch from your own house and have your own snacks and make popcorn or shrimp chips or nachos or whatever you want. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's talk about tonight's event. I think we have a slide to show.
So tonight we'll have a conversation with our longtime friend, Daniel Wu. Most of you aren't old enough to watch his movies yet, but Daniel grew up in the Bay Area, moved to Hong Kong, and became a megastar in Asia. He has acted in more than 60 Hong Kong and Chinese films, from gangster flicks and kung fu movies to art movies, comedies and romances, and won awards for Best Director and Best New Director and Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, but for the last few years, he's been back in California and working on Hollywood projects. His most recent personal and epic piece is Into the Badlands, a 3-season TV series that mixes kung fu movie sensibilities with Walking Dead production value after the apocalypse. It's amazing. Not for you kids though, but for you parents, quarantining is a great time to stream it and binge watch it.
And now I'd also like to introduce Martin's co-host tonight, someone who has known Daniel Wu for 12 years. It's going to be Eloise.
That's her. That's Eloise.
Hi.
Yeah, so let's introduce our, oh, and Dan. Let's introduce him too. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for doing this, Dan.
Good to see you guys. I'm glad to be here. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we asked you, and just like that, you said yes, like minutes later, and
of course,
I really appreciate it.
Of course,
and then we
anything I can do for you guys.
When things went heavy, I'm like, are you sure you want to do this, man? Things are really, intense out there. And you're like, yeah, I still want to do it. So I think it's very cool.
Yeah, I think in this really dark and trying times that we need some moments of levity. So I'm happy to bring that.
All right. Do you guys want to start?
Okay. What type of elementary school student were you?
Huh. This was a long time ago. It was more than 40 years ago. I was a, I don't know, I was a kind of hyperactive kid. I wasn't the best student, but I remember that I really enjoyed my primary school years. I went to a school that was in a mostly Caucasian community, but my best friends at the school, one was Japanese American, one was Filipino American, and the three of us hung out together. So I kind of found my tribe, and we were, a really close knit group. And I'm still friends with one of them today, since kindergarten. So he's probably my oldest friend now.
Yeah, so some of you kids out there, your friends now, you should try to stay in touch, because you never know where you'll go, but you can always stay in touch and keep your friends.
So we're going to have some student questions for you too.
Oh.
There you go.
Hello, Daniel. My name is Evelyn Lee. What is your childhood dream?
What was my childhood dream? I think it was like most people, most boys, I wanted to be a fireman because they had a nice, cool red truck. But then as I got older, I started to have other ideas. And eventually by the time I got to high school, I wanted to be an architect. I knew that. And that's what I studied in university. And then eventually I became an actor. So, my dreams were constantly changing, and that's okay. It's okay to have dreams that change all the time because you grow and you mature and you change and you have different ideas. And, even though I wanted to become an architect and I studied architecture, I got pulled into the entertainment business and started acting. I still went with it. Even though that wasn't my dream at the moment, it then became my dream. And it became a dream come true.
So how did that happen? Because you didn't plan on being an actor.
And,
Yeah, it was very, you're right. I didn't plan on being an actor. I didn't study acting growing up. And a lot of that was because when I was growing up, I didn't see a lot of Asian faces on screen. There's a lot more today than there was when we were growing up. So I didn't even think that was an option. And so I went to school. I studied architecture. I graduated in 1997. While I was working, while I was in school, I was there for 5 years. I did internships at different offices during the summer. And I realized that although I really loved the education of architecture and learning how to be creative and finding a creative process, the profession I felt like wasn't really for me because it wasn't as creative as I was led to believe. So then it became a point of like, well, then what am I going to do? And I realized like architecture is a very broad education. It teaches you how to bring an idea to fruition, to make it real. And so I knew that I was going to try and find a creative job. So in '97, I graduated from University of Oregon, and I wanted to take a college trip before I found what I was going to do. And so I went to Hong Kong. And in 1977, Hong Kong was going back to become part of China. It was under British rule before. It was colonized by the British, and they were giving Hong Kong back to China. And so I wanted to be there for that moment. And while I was there, I was going to travel around Asia for 2 or 3 months and figure out what I was going to do. I had no idea what I was going to do. And then go back home and get a job. And while I was in Hong Kong, someone approached me off the street and asked me to do a TV commercial. And I never really thought about it, but I said, I'll give it a shot. So I gave it a try, and I did it. And it was fun, but it wasn't something that I really enjoyed. But it was fun. And so I did that commercial, and a month later it came out. And then when it came out, someone called me, and it was a director. And it turns out it was the director of my first movie. And he said, I saw your commercial. I really, like your look. Can you come in and do an interview with me? So I went in and had an interview. We talked for like an hour, and then I walked out. I didn't even audition, and I walked out. And then about an hour or so later, he called me and said, okay, I want you to play the lead in my movie. I said, what? I said, what? I've never acted before. And at the time, my Cantonese was not very good. And I said, I don't think I can do this. I took film classes in college, and I knew that making a movie is not just fun and games. It's a really difficult, and these are people's dreams on the line. Like when a director makes a movie, that's their passion project, their dream that they want to show to the world. And I was like, you don't want to put all that in the responsibility in my hands, right? I've never done this before. I don't think I can do it. So I actually turned him down. and because I didn't have the confidence. And so I turned him down, but then he didn't give up. And so every other day he kept calling me. And finally, in the end, after thinking about it for a really long time, I was like, okay, if you don't blame me for screwing it up, I'll give it a shot, but I can't guarantee that it's going to be good, you know? And so we had 2 or 3 months, and I accepted. So then we had 2 or 3 months to prepare for the movie. And I just worked the hardest. And I didn't know anything about acting. So I told the director, I'm like, okay, I'm going to look at this character that you want me to play as like a building. And a building has like a foundation, and that's like someone's backstory, like where they were born, what kind of parents they had, where they grew up, what kind of school they went to, all those kinds of things that make the foundation of that person is their backstory. So that's the same thing as a foundation, what a building sits on to become stable, right? And then how a building is made. Is it steel? Is it wood? That tells you like the personality or the character of this person. And then the skin of the building, the outside of the building. That's what, when you look at a building, that's what the building's trying to tell the world what it wants to be. And so that's what a person is too. You have a conscience that wants to present a certain image of yourself to the world. And that's how you do it. So I broke it down in that way, and I was able to see acting as I saw architecture, right, as a similar type of thing. And the director's like, I've never seen anybody do that before, but it seems like that might work, so keep doing that. And I kept doing it that way, and I learned the role that way. Of course, there's other things like learning the language and learning the dialogue, and that was like recording on a tape and playing that back every night and doing all that work. But essentially, like understanding the character and understanding how to play a character and what his life is like and how different it is from my life was done through that process. And my first day on set, I remember after 2 or 3 months of preparing, working really hard to prepare for this, I got there and I saw the set was so busy, so many people from all walks of life doing all kinds of things, but they're all working on one thing, which is trying to make a really good movie. And I fell in love with that. And that was exactly what life was like at school. It's like we were in a classroom with like 15 students, and we all worked really hard to get our projects done. And this is what movie making was like. And I wanted to recreate that experience in college, and that's what it was. And so that's the long story of how I got involved in acting.
I really love how it's something you had no idea how to do, but you took stuff from your background that you already knew and applied it, and you went for it. Even though you weren't familiar with it, you took what you were familiar with, and applied it and just tried it out. Like, why not?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, I don't know why, but I wasn't scared. I mean, maybe a little bit, but I wasn't scared. I was like, okay, how do I look at this in a way that makes me understand it? How can I understand this in my own terms? And eventually, that's what you do in acting anyway. Like if you look at like a lot of dialogue and it doesn't make sense to you about the way the character is speaking, you look at what he's saying and what he or she is saying and what they're trying to tell the other person, and then you say it in your own words. And once you say it in your own words, then when you look back at the dialogue, it all suddenly makes sense again, and you can apply that, and then you can say that dialogue and it feels right. So like you can do that with many things. You can apply a certain kind of knowledge to everything, because everything is kind of relative. And especially with like architecture and acting and art, it's all part of the same thing. It's a form of self-expression.
Yeah, I hope a lot of students out there, just, I don't know, understand that it's important to just try and go for it and be confident and use what you have, right? Even though you don't know it 100%, just try, learn something new.
Yeah, don't. That my mom told me that. When I was given the opportunity to do this movie, I was a little scared, and I called her. I said, "Look, I don't know if I can do this," and she goes, "Just try. You have nothing to lose." And that was a really important piece of advice my mom gave me.
And I remember when I visited you, like a lot of your friends, like they were all really creative, interesting people. And I'm wondering if you like surrounded yourself with that sort of person, to succeed. Like, did that help?
Yeah, for sure. Like you try to surround yourself with like-minded people that inspire you, people that are smarter than you that you can learn from, and when you do that, then you can grow, because the way you grow is through your community, through the people around you. And if you surround yourself with good people, then you're obviously going to grow in good ways. And it's important to find mentors, people that you can trust, that you can talk to about. They're maybe not necessarily your parents, that are other people that you respect and that that can give you advice and show you, through their life experience, how to approach something or how to tackle something.
Yeah, but it wasn't just actors. It was musicians. It was filmmakers. It was tech people, designers. Like it was very cool.
Yeah, yeah, because all those people inspire me to do, great work in my field.
So some of the students at Castelar learned Chinese. Did you already speak Chinese when you went to Hong Kong? Did you have to work on it?
Yes, I did have to work on it. And this is one thing, this is why my daughter is now in a Chinese immersion school. Because when I was growing up, there wasn't Chinese immersion schools, but there was Chinese school. And that was on the weekend. And I did not want to go to school on the weekend. So I fought to not have to do that. But my parents are from Shanghai, so we grew up speaking Shanghai dialect. But that was a kind of a rare language and not many people spoke. Although in China, 20 million people speak it. But not many people in the United States spoke it. So it wasn't really useful for other Chinese people when I met them. But my parents also spoke Mandarin. My mom also spoke Cantonese. And so I picked up a little bit here and there. When I started to learn Kung Fu at around 12 years old, my teacher was from Beijing and he spoke Mandarin. So then I started to pick up a little bit more. But Cantonese, I did not learn until I got to Hong Kong. And that was very, very difficult because I was already 21, 22. But I had the chance of, growing up, I watched a lot of Hong Kong movies. And so I heard Cantonese a lot and I could read the subtitles. So I understood a bit. I just never really spoke it before. So I had to teach myself how to speak it. And that was a very, very difficult process because I think Cantonese is one of the hardest languages in the world to learn. Mandarin, you guys have 4 tones, but Cantonese is 9 or more. So it's very, very easy to get things wrong. And so the way I did it was I forced myself to only speak Cantonese. So even though I had friends that spoke English and Cantonese, I would make them only speak Cantonese with me. And if I had to, I would use English words or Mandarin words to put in there. But I would try my best because the only way you can learn a language is by using it, And so I just made sure that I learned it. Like, for example, my sister went to Hong Kong many years before me, but she only had really British friends and she didn't really learn Cantonese. So she's been there now like 30 years and still doesn't really speak Cantonese. So it's about who you surround yourself with, what we were talking about earlier in the question that your dad asked.
When you were growing up, did you go to the Chinatowns in Oakland or San Francisco? What are some memories of them?
Yes, I'm very familiar with Chinatown. Oakland Chinatown was close to my house, and one of my aunts had a bakery there. And then my second cousin, he had a fish store. And so we would go there almost every weekend to get food and go shopping and get, char siu bao and things like that to bring home. So I had really great memories of that and hanging around in my aunt's bakery. And then later, when I started learning martial arts and doing wushu, I trained at the YMCA in San Francisco Chinatown. So I spent a lot of time there. And also I used to go every Chinese New Year, I would go to San Francisco Chinatown with my family for the Chinese New Year parade. And so that was, it was really formative for me to constantly be in Chinatown because it reminded me of my past, my culture, my history, all that. Because I grew up in a very kind of white suburb. And so we didn't see a lot of Chinese people. So it was important for me to go to Chinatown as much as possible. Oh, your volume.
Okay.
What are the most fun things about acting? What is your favorite movie that you have acted in? And are we old enough to see it?
Well, I've done a lot of movies that kids can watch. Tomb Raider, I'm sure you can watch that. But my favorite thing about acting, well, first of all, is being able to pretend to be other people, to play other roles. Like I've done almost 70 films and played all these different kinds of characters. So I've been able to understand other people much better because I've actually put my feet in other people's shoes. So I played many police officers, I played bad guys, I played doctors, I played lawyers, I played all kinds of things. And when you play those characters, you have to also do a lot of research. So you have to understand what their life is like, what their work is like, what it is like to have their life experience. And so when you do that, you gain that kind of experience. You gain empathy. And I think that's really an important thing in these times nowadays, that we need to understand each other more. Because we don't understand each other, that's why their conflicts arise. And so being an actor has really opened me up to be more empathetic and open to a lot of other people. And also the other thing I like about it is working with other actors and especially now that I'm working in Hollywood, because I'm working like all over the world with actors from all over the world. And so I'm meeting an actor from England, I'm meeting an actor from South Africa, China, Hong Kong, and working together on stuff. It's really interesting and really fun because it's interesting to see that we're all doing the same thing, but culturally we bring different things to it. And you learn and grow so much from working with different kinds of people.
Cool. Let's get into some more questions from kids.
Okay.
So, Amber sent a question about your movie career.
Okay.
你好，吴先生，请问当演员的时候有什么困难？而且你遇到困难的时候，你是怎么解决的？ Hi, Mr. Wu. I have some questions. What are the difficulties of being an actor? And when you have the difficulties, how did you overcome them?
That's a very good question. There are always difficulties with a character or working on a movie. It's very tough. Making a show like Into the Badlands is very tiring because I have to fight for like 12 hours a day. It's very difficult. So one of the things that you can do to mitigate difficulties is being prepared. Making sure you've done all your homework and memorized your lines and doing all that stuff. It's just like doing your homework, or doing the reading so that when you take the quiz, you can get the answers right. So that's very important. Also, but when you're working on stuff, sometimes you come across a situation where you don't know what to do or how to handle it. So it's also important to go to people that you respect or that you look on as mentors for their advice, because sometimes they can help you. Maybe they don't know specifically that what that situation is like, but they've been in something similar and they can help you get through that situation. So there's lots and lots of ways. And then also, working on a movie, your director is also very important because the director is shaping the movie. And so you can ask them questions. And the important thing here really is that don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't think that you have to know everything. Asking questions means you're smart and that you're trying to figure out something. And so it doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean you don't know anything. It means you're trying to understand and you're trying to learn. And so people can't be mad at you for trying to learn. So always remember that to ask questions, and those ways will get you around difficulties.
We have a question about martial arts from Daisy.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Daisy Fu Ottoberg. I am 8 years old. I have been practicing Taekwondo for almost 2 years. My parents and I are super impressed with your amazing fight moves. My parents loved your show Into the Badlands, and they would let me watch some of the fight scenes because they were inspiring for my training. What kind of martial arts have you learned, and which ones do you find the most useful in your film work?
Wow, that's a great question. I started off learning Shaolin Kung Fu, and I did that for several years, and then I switched to Wushu. I could go into the differences. Shaolin Kung Fu is more traditional style Kung Fu. Wushu is more sport, but we have more like gymnastic type moves in it. And then later I learned things like Muay Thai, Thai boxing, Taekwondo, a little bit of karate. And now I'm messing around with jujitsu, because for movie making, it actually, you don't need to have one style. It's important that you're a good mover and that you can learn choreography well. So it's important that you're very well rounded and that you can you can pick up stuff quickly. And so it's important to learn lots of different martial arts and not just be in one martial art. But I think as you're just learning, I think it's important to stick with one for a little while so that you have a foundation and understanding. So if you've been doing Taekwondo for 2 years, I would say stick with that for a few more years, get your black belt and then move on to other stuff. Or you can learn other stuff while you're learning this, but don't jump around to different things all over the place. Like learn one thing and then that'll be your foundation, and then you can go and add things to it from other martial arts. But especially for movies, because we have to do a lot of different things. We're not just doing one style all the time. And so it's important that your body moves well. So I also do yoga, and I also stretch a lot, and I also do gymnastic stuff, because you need to be a good mover, not just a good martial artist to do fighting in movies.
Here's a question from Sabina.
Hi Daniel, my name is Sabina and I'm in second grade. I study martial arts and I'm going to ask you, what is your worst injury while filming?
Let's see. I've been pretty lucky and I haven't had that many bad injuries while filming. Like a lot of times, you get bruises here and there. Sometimes, you get hit in the arm or even in the face sometimes, not so bad. I think the worst injury I ever had was while training. And I was doing what's called a jumping tornado kick and I landed wrong and I tore my ACL. So that's a very important tendon in your knee. And it was a very scary experience for me because I'd never been injured like that in my life. And I had to have surgery. I had to go through 6 months of physiotherapy and try and get back to normal again. It was very difficult. It was very hard for me mentally because I'd never had that happen to me. And I was worried that I would not be able to train again. But I did the work and I spent a year slowly getting back into shape. This is 15 years ago. And I'm still okay now, so I'm good. It's scary and and it happens to everybody, but if there's a lot of science involved in how to recover now, and if you follow the science, you can recover pretty well.
I thought your worst injury was from skateboarding.
Well, I had a bad injury there too. I broke my leg skateboarding, and then I was 34 then. That was 11 years ago, and I haven't skateboarded since.
And now we have a question from Jude.
Hi, my name is Jude Kelvermeyer, and this is my question for Daniel Wu. 你觉得你养的哪一个角色在你的职业生涯中最重要？谢谢 Thank you.
So he asked, what role do you consider the most important of your career?
Okay. That's what I thought. 最重要的, I think for me, and it's not a movie that kids can watch. It's called One Night in Mongkok. It was I personally like a certain kind of movie. They're a little bit darker, a little more adult. And when I first started acting, I was doing a lot of romantic movies, comedy movies, and things like that. And although I liked those also, they weren't my favorite. And so when I finally got a chance to do One Night in Mongkok, I met a director named Derek Lee. Derek Yee. He was the director of that. And I really, really respected him and I really wanted to work with him. So when I got the chance to work with him, I felt like finally a dream of mine was coming true. And we built a really wonderful relationship. And afterwards, we did 5 other movies together. So we did 6 movies together. And I think it was really important because it established that relationship with me and him. But also that movie was also a type of movie that I really liked. And from that point on, I started doing those kinds of movies. So I was able to shift my career in a way that I wanted. A lot of times people think that in the entertainment business, well, actually, when you get started, you don't really have a lot of choices. You just take what's given to you. But you get to a certain point where you realize, okay, that's great, but I want to do what I want to do. And so how do you start to achieve that? And so getting One Night in Mongkok was a really important thing for me because it started to push my career in the direction I wanted it to go.
I think that's still my favorite movie of yours after all this. And I also feel like that was like the first movie maybe where like you got your head and a doorknob collided in a harsh way. And that happened a couple other times later on, if I recall correctly.
I think doorknob, that was the only time. It was a pretty visceral scene, let's say.
His sister Grace has a question too.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Grace Kellermeyer, and this is my question for Daniel Wu. How did you become a famous actor? Thank you.
I guess I talked a little bit about that. I talked about it just now. I went to Hong Kong in '97. I met my first director. But it was interesting because I thought after doing that first movie, it'd probably be really hard to get another movie, and maybe that might be my last movie. But what was interesting about that was that my director started to introduce me to other directors, and then within 2 weeks of finishing that movie, I was already starting another movie. And then my first year, I think I did three movies. And then the second year I did like 4 more, and then the third year I did like 6 movies. So it just started to snowball. And so I think the fame part came a little bit, as it grew as I started to do more and more. But I want to say something about that fame. Like nowadays, we talk about fame a lot because we see on social media and all that stuff that everybody's so famous. But you have to remember that shouldn't be a goal. That's a result of doing something interesting. But a lot of people now just want to be famous, but they don't have, a means to achieve that or a medium to be famous in. And so they use Instagram and they use all these things to be famous. But as an actor, that wasn't my goal. My goal wasn't to be a famous actor. My goal was I wanted to learn how to act, and then I wanted to be a good actor. And then when you naturally go through that process and people like what you do, you slowly become famous. So you don't need to focus on being famous. That will come naturally. If you do the work and you get good at what you do, that'll naturally come.
Yeah, I love that you bring up the point, that the goal wasn't to be famous, but it was to be good at it and to enjoy it and do something you love. And I also like what you said about, the first director, Yan Fan, introduced you to other people. And I think all of you students out there, you can think about that's the value of being cool to people, right? Like if you get along with people, they'll introduce you to other people. And that's how you kind of meet other people and keep doing interesting stuff, is by being cool, Like if you're being a jerk and whatever, you're not going to get those second and third opportunities.
Or also just not being scared to do something, right? Because I was kind of scared to do that movie, but if I didn't do that movie, I wouldn't be where I am right now, And so I just jumped in, I just did it. I didn't know what I was doing. I learned quickly and then I tried to make it work. And so
what I mean also, I don't mean be cool, like be a cool guy like Dan is, but just be nice to people is what I mean.
Yeah.
Or to clarify to the students out there. Oh, Eloise.
Have you always been confident? Do you ever want to give up?
Yes.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's a very good question. I think, and I think it's important to say that I don't always feel confident, and I have to work to get to that point to feel confident. So, let's say for example, when I accept a movie and I'm about to do a movie, usually I choose the movie because the character or something about it is interesting that I haven't done before, and that can be scary. I don't know if I can do this, but it's the I don't know I can do this which drives me to want to do it. And so, I prepare and I get ready and I spend as much time as I can getting ready so that when I'm there, when I get to the set, that I have the confidence to play the character. But I want to say that it's, confidence, it will always be up and down. Even the people that seem supremely confident all the time, they're not confident sometimes, and they find a way to bring that up in them. And so it's okay to feel not confident sometimes, but you work your way to finding a place of confidence. And there's so many ways to do that. But again, I want to repeat the fact that it's okay to feel that way. And even now, sometimes I feel unconfident. I'm 45 now, and I'm a father, and I have a daughter. But sometimes I do feel that way as well. And so I think about it. I think about how to make myself feel better or feel less or more confident, and then I follow that path.
You've been really supportive of my band, and we're really supportive of the magazine that my parents helped make too. Can you talk about supporting other artists, friends, and young people?
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. First of all, I just love creativity. So I love what you're doing with your band. I love everything that you guys are doing, and I love the girl power. I have a daughter, so it's important to me. It's inspiring to me, and it's inspiring to her. And these are things that when I was little, I wasn't really encouraged to do because my mom and dad wanted me to be, a doctor or a lawyer, and they didn't think band was cool. But I still wanted to be in a band anyway, and so I snuck off into my friend's house, and we made a band, and we did it. I still can't play very well today, but we had those dreams. So when I see you doing it, it makes me so happy that you're doing stuff that and taking it to a whole nother level that I never could have done. So that's great. And then supporting your parents' magazine. Well, I would just say, I wrote for your dad's magazine, Giant Robot, for a long time, 15 years. And your dad and I had a really cool working relationship. We were not only friends, but we also worked together all the time because I would write pieces, he would edit them, and then put it in the magazine. And so I really, the relationship your dad and I built over all this time was very valuable to me. And so anytime I could help out with them, I'd love to do it. So with the newsine, you know, if I could help with that, I would do it. But also just, you know, I think that's how you help build creativity, is we're a community and we do it together. It's not just a single person in their room alone doing it all by themselves. I rely on lots of people to help me do something. Like if I'm working on a movie or working on a character, I talk to a lot of people and I try to get their opinions. And I also like to surround myself with creative people, because you get different perspectives about life that are not all the same. If you're around people that all think the same all the time, you're only going to think in that way. But if you're around people that have different ideas, that think outside the box all the time, you'll be constantly pushed to do that as well. And I think that's what we need in this day and age, is that we need to think outside the box. We need to break away from certain traditions and or certain things that have been established that are not necessarily good, and think about ways to make things better, you know. And so the only way you can do that is be with like-minded people.
You can't act in films during the time of the coronavirus.
What's that?
You can't act in films during the time of the coronavirus.
Oh.
What have you been doing instead?
Well, I would say a good 50% of my time has been doing distance learning with my daughter. As you all know, it takes a lot of time, and she's only 6, so I don't think she's disciplined enough to do all the assignments by herself, so I have to sit with her and do it. So I've been spending a lot of time doing that. I've been doing a lot of podcasts with my friends, doing talks like this, because even though we're separated, the internet is a wonderful thing, and we can all come together and not feel so alone during the shelter in place by doing things like this. Normally, I don't really do this, but the shelter in place thing really made me want to reach out to people and be around other people in this virtual space, because it's the only thing we could do. And then I'm working on a script that I want to direct for either next year or the year after. So I've been pretty busy, but also, you know, taking time to rethink about life and think about things, because it's very rare that we get a chance to just put a pause on life like this. And I don't think it's ever really happened before. And so for us to be able to take time to use that time to do interesting things, to do things you couldn't normally do because life was moving so fast, was great.
Yeah, and it's crazy that that pause is happening all around the world, right? It's not just
Yes.
like
Yes.
all of us are forced to do it together, which is really interesting and has a lot of potential. Okay, so we're gonna do like a speed round with a bunch of student questions now, because like 5:45, people are getting hungry. Let's dig in. The first question is from Isaiah and Isabella, and they have a question about quarantining.
Hi, my name is Isaiah and I am in 2nd grade. Hi, my name is Isabella and I am in 4th grade. We are athletes and we want to know how you stay in shape during quarantine.
Oh, that's a very good one. Well, first of all, I've been training for most of my life, so I have a lot of tools in my head and learning how to train. So in the beginning, I was doing a lot of running and a lot of biking. This is the stuff that I normally don't do, but I was doing that, and then I was doing my own workout programs. And then, you know, the great thing about the internet is there's YouTube. So if there's something, let's say I feel like my back is weak, I want to do some back strengthening exercises, I can just look that up on YouTube and find somebody that's an expert in that and can do that. And I follow those things. So there's a lot of ways. I'm lucky enough to also have a lot of gym equipment at home, so I can work at home. But you also don't need any equipment to work out. You know, you can do a really great workout without any equipment, just, you know, movements, air squats, push-ups, things like that, that get you really, really good shape.
Okay, here's another question related to the pandemic. There's been a lot of hate crimes towards Asians since it started, and now Blacks, Latinx, you know, everyone. So we're wondering if you could answer Noelle's question, which is coming up.
Hello, my name is Noelle. I am 6.5 years old and I am in kindergarten. I want to ask Daniel Wu, have anyone been mean to you because you were Asian, and what did you do?
你好，我叫魏斯，我6岁，我在上楼幼园。幼园因为你是幼稚园，2乡，你将幼园。
漂亮。 what do I do when, okay, so yes, I've definitely experienced people being mean to me growing up, and even more recent years. And I think what we need to do is, first of all, if it's happening in school, you need to tell a teacher, you need to tell someone that this is happening. We can't, and also you just can't let it go either. Racism is a very nasty thing that we're learning, and so it starts at a young age. And so we need to, if you see it happening amongst your classmates and things like that, we have to educate ourselves and tell each other, hey, this is not nice. We need to be good to each other. That's very important. And then if it happens to you when you're outside, look to an adult. Look to an adult that knows what to do in that situation. And if you're not, and it's a dangerous situation, you need to go away. You need to move out of that situation and get to a safe place. But I think it's very important to not let those things bring you down, though. Don't ever be ashamed of being, Asian, Black, or Latinx, or anything. Be proud of who you are, and always know that that's always going to be there and to support you. Your family will be there to support you, and your pride will help you get through those difficult moments. So always be proud, never be ashamed. And don't let those people get to you.
This past week, people have been protesting racism and violence against African Americans. Mia has a question related to that.
Hi, my name is Leah King, and I'm a 5th grader at Castelar. My question is, right now, there's a lot of hurt and anger in our country. What advice do you have for us as young people?
Wow. Well, I want to say this. The future of this country and this world is in your guys' hands. We as adults have done as much as we can, but the future is in your hands. So it's up to you to make the changes that we should see in the world. And so, like I was saying earlier, you have to start at a young age and be strong, be confident, be proud, right? And move forward with that. But also, when you see something bad happening, call it out. You can't ignore it, and you can't accept it anymore. It's not acceptable to accept this kind of hate crimes and all that kind of stuff anymore. But also, we also need to work with each other. People of color need to work together to fight racism. It's not a separate thing. It's not, maybe in the older days, maybe my parents tell me, well, what's happening with them is nothing to do with you, so stay out of it. But that's not true anymore. People of color, we're all people of color. And so we need to side with African Americans. We need to side with Latinx people. We need to come together as a team. And I just wrote an article for ESPN talking about Bruce Lee. And one philosophy Bruce Lee used to always talk about was be water. And it's a very useful analogy for life. In this instance, water is powerful, very, very powerful, right? And it's very powerful in small drops, in small streams, but it's very powerful when it's grouped together. And so we're a pool of water. African Americans are another pool of water. Latinx people are another pool of water. If we join together, we can be a lake or an ocean. And when you're an ocean, you're very, very powerful, right? And so once you become that strong, then we can really fight racism and get it and eradicate it.
Yeah, I really love how Into the Badlands, the TV show, you really had, a ton of Asians, African Americans, Latinx, and a ton of strong women. And I think it's cool to model that, on the screen for everyone to see and just to grow up or just hang out and just see that as being regular and normal. Can you talk about how
that was something that we did on purpose. So we knew that we wanted to do a martial arts show, but we also wanted it to be, impactful. We didn't want it to be just action. We wanted it to empower people. And martial arts is a piece of empowerment. The learning martial arts is a game changer, because that means once you learn to defend yourself, you don't have to be big or strong or whatever. You have technical skills that can help defend yourself. And so we wanted to kind of follow those ideals with the show, and that we wanted to back what we're saying, and that we want to be diverse. And so we have to cast diverse. And so that meant not only people in front of the camera, but that means people behind the camera. And so it was a really beautiful thing, our set, because We shot in Ireland. The show was shot in Ireland, but we had people from Hong Kong, from China, from Italy, from America, from Europe, England, all different parts of the world, all working together. And sometimes that doesn't work, you know, because different cultures work differently. But we worked really well together, and it was such a beautiful thing. And I think that feeling kind of was spilled over into the show and how we ran the show also. And like, if you watch the show after you're 15 years old, you can see that even the background actors, we have lots of people of color. And it was not an easy thing to do because in Ireland, there are not a lot of minorities there. And so we had to go out in the streets and find these people and ask them. These are not regular extras that were in the show. There were people that we had to go out in the streets and say, hey, you want to be in this really cool TV show? Because we wanted the show to reflect on what the world is today. That the world today is really mixed. And we wanted to make sure that kids growing up that are 15 and over that see the show will be inspired to, you know, be martial artists, to be actors, to be strong heroes for their community, you know, and that was what the show was trying to do.
Yeah, we can all do things like that, even if it's just in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important for all of us to work together, but also just to be friends with people of different races, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can understand each other better and benefit from each other. And it's really scary and sad to be stuck inside now with all this stuff going on. But I hope you students know that it's an opportunity. This is a chance for you to make the world, you know, more just and make it more peaceful. And you can help, you know, make the world better just by, I don't know, helping people, not just for different races, but LGBTQ. And all of this, I hope the talk today makes you excited and it's fun, but I hope you feel empowered too.
Thank you for being so awesome and taking the time to hang out with us.
Thank you for inviting me. This is really fun. I'm glad to do it.
Yeah, and thank you.
And I hope you're good.
Thank you. Thanks for sticking around, and we hope you all had fun tonight and see you in Chinatown again.
Yeah, we miss seeing you, Dan. Like, we talk to you on the phone now and then, but it's great to see you.
I know. I can't wait to get back down to LA again at some point.
Yeah, get some green
collars. Yeah, yes.
And all you students out there and families, you know, we hope to see you too. We really miss being at school. Coming here to the campus it makes my heart break because I realize how much we're missing. And you fifth graders should be saying goodbye to your friends and being excited about going to middle school. And I know you feel ripped off, but hopefully you'll turn this into something good, all you kids. And you parents, the ones who aren't leaving, you know, if you want to check out future events, you know, definitely, you know, check out Faces of Castelar at Gmail, where you all RSVP'd for this. You can check us out on Facebook at We Heart Castelar. There's even like a PayPal account that you can see on the next page with all the contact info. So thanks to everyone for staying to the very end. Dan didn't take off either. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye. See ya. Have a good weekend.
Sunlight comes streaming in through my window. Green leaves all dance in the breeze. But I'm just stuck in my house all day long. I can't go and do what I please. Yeah, I could FaceTime or do homework online, but it just ain't the same.